How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am the curator for the Golden Age, and this is another...
Lost Heroes of the Golden... Wait, this is the Silver Age.
Yeah, we're doing Silver Age. Just before we get the video started, I did miss the last episode of Timely Month last week. Had some stuff come up, and the video got delayed. I was going to do a request, but we will get to that some other time. This is the start of DC Month, and I've been watching a lot of DC movies, the animated movies lately, and it got me interested in one of the characters that I really didn't know too much of his history about, because as I've watched shows like, I think I mentioned Justice League and Superman Unbound, I have heard different origin stories for this character, so I wanted to track down his ultimate first appearance to see what the beginning of him was. And I guess his origin has been done more over time.
Get on with it.
I'm getting to it. This week we're going to be covering the first appearance of Brainiac.
Brainiac. In that case, I should be continuing with this review. After all, it is my favorite DC character to begin with.
That is absolutely not going to happen.
Why not?
Well, because we have done villains in the past that I have reviewed. You don't have to do every villain that we ever go over.
That's a great idea.
No. Okay. Anyways, this is a character that I have often found interesting. And the way he loses just doesn't seem to make sense for how smart and powerful he is. Anyways, we are going to be covering the original Brainiac. Now, in the intro, I do introduce him as Vil Dox. That is not his original name. That is just a name that he developed over time. I don't go largely into his history because it is long and I didn't want to. And Brainiac has been seriously retconned over the years to flush out the character, just as all DC has. I mean, just look how long these characters have been around for. Now, I do a little bit of the lead in to where he started and the template for his creation, and then we will cover the first appearance. So I hope that you enjoy this episode of the Lost Heroes of the Golden Age Silver Age Villain Edition. I didn't have any idea where the story was going when I first did it, but you might notice some remnants of this first appearance that did actually track into later versions of his origins that didn't get changed. So let's go ahead and get this one started. Brainiac, Vil Dox, but not originally, first appeared in Action Comics 242 in July of 1958. Created by Otto Binder, which I've mentioned a number of times, and created by Al Plastino. Now, the publisher is National Periodicals, because National Periodicals would not officially be known as DC until 1977, though as early as 1940 they were calling themselves Superman DC. They didn't officially adopt the name until then. Now, Brainiac's first appearance in the comics was Action Comics, but the idea for Brainiac first appeared in the Superman comic strips, which appeared as early as April of 1958 and ran through August of 1958. And this is where the concept of Brainiac would come from, along with other concepts such as Brainiac, or Bizarro, and Red Kryptonite. The comic strips also inspired those things. When he first appeared, He was, let's see, Romando. And he had a silver alien monkey named Coco, which the idea of Coco still does appear. Now, instead of having the bottle city of Kandor, the city was named Dur El Va. Now, I have not been able to find the original comic strips with these concepts in it. I have found other comic strips from that time, but I haven't been able to find this one specifically. Now, the reason this appeared in the comic strips at first is, well, it was in newspaper comics, but the editor of the comic book at the time, Mort Weisinger, wanted to use the comic strip as a prototype for concepts that would be coming up in the comic book, such as the ones that I mentioned. So a number of ideas that would become Superman staples would come from that comic strip that appeared for the certain number of months in 1958. So I'm not going to go into Brainiac's history. It is a long process. They have spent many years flushing out his history. And the only reason I wanted to do this is because I have been a fan of DC Comics for a long time, and I've heard many different Brainiac's origins, but they've usually been conflicting, especially if you've seen Brainiac from the Adventures of Superman and then Brainiac from Superman Unbound. Now, I think the one from Unbound is the latest origin that we go with, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the very first appearance of Brainiac from Action Comics so you can see what their original concept was going forward and what their original idea for this guy was, to give you kind of a better idea of just who he is before he became who he was before he became who he is. So let's go ahead and get into the very first appearance of Brainiac. I'm going to start off showing you this cover so you can see what I think this was what they were planning on doing with Brainiac, but he looks nothing like this in the strip. I mean, right here you see him with this fancy helmet and this, what looks like a suit. I dare you to capture me, Superman, the moment you touch my Ultra Force shield. Even your invulnerable body will be destroyed. That's not how your Force shield worked in the comic. It's the greatest challenge of my life. This super outlaw may be bluffing, but I can't take the chance. Here goes. The super duel in space. Okay. Superman! When a supervillain from outer space menaces the Earth with his amazing scientific powers, Earth's mightiest champion Superman speeds to the given battle, but this time the Man of Steel encounters fantastic superpowers even greater than his own, and a breathless world awaits in suspense to learn what will be the outcome when the Man of Steel and the Alien of Steel begin the super duel in space. Won't anything defeat the supervillain? I'll hurl a giant meteor. You're only wearing yourself out, puny man. Even if you throw the Earth itself, it would only bounce off my Ultra Force shield. See, he looks nothing like the cover. Of course, that happened a lot in Superman, where what was on the cover rarely reflected what was going on in the comic book in the early issues. If you want a great representation of that, just look at a lot of the covers of my pal Jimmy Olsen. Okay. Scientists watch breathlessly one day as the Army launches a new rocket. Okay. There goes the Columbia's first experimental spaceship with humans aboard. Okay, they say that the Army is launching a new rocket, and we see Lois and Clark here. Why would civilians be on an Army launching rocket? And the better question is, why is Clark Kent here? I understand Lois Lane being here. She was a famous reporter, but Clark Kent is not. I mean, usually he runs feel-good stories, occasionally a Superman print when Lois can't get it, but she's a renowned reporter. He's not. But they're both on this ship. They say they hardly feel any discomfort from the anti-shock seats. Wow, they didn't. Okay, the first manned space launch did happen in 1961, so it's understandable how back in 1958 they wouldn't actually know the force and pressure of launching somebody into outer space, but anti-shock seats, yeah, okay. Oh, at the height of 200 miles, awesome space scene unfolds. Actually, that would happen before 200 miles. I mean, at 68 miles above the Earth, that's where they say the point between the atmosphere and space is the divide of. So you would get that before 200 miles. Okay. As they're exploring the space, 100,000 miles from Earth, we've broken all rocket records. Hooray! But the test animals are whirling madly, and they look out and they see a UFO. They actually made it a flying saucer. Okay, as Clark Kent, who is secretly Superman, probes into the unknown craft with his X-ray vision. Now, I understand that he could use his X-ray vision to look into the craft, but how is he hearing what this person is saying? I mean, even if he's theoretically using his hearing, the voice, he shouldn't be able to hear what's being said with two spaceships that aren't connected through the vacuum of space. I would theoretically think. I mean, there is no sound in space, so whatever Brainiac is saying, the voice shouldn't travel beyond his spacecraft. Did the Earthlings dare to send a ship to stop me, Brainiac, master of the super scientific forces? We'll show them, Coco. The next ray I shoot out will do far worse than make animals dance madly. Ha 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 ha. An enemy from some alien planet. Okay, now this, I had to look a couple of things up because what just happens next was truly inexplicably maddening. So, Clark says that he's not going to change into Superman on the ship because he doesn't want his identity revealed. So he puts on a spaceship and jumps out the ship. Poor Clark, he's so afraid he's jumping back to Earth. I'll pretend to zoom back to Earth, propelled by the built-in supersonic jets. Now, if a human being tried to go back to Earth, you're going to be re-entering orbit. I am more than certain you'd be a crispy critter. Hold on, I'm looking at this up real quick. Now, he would most likely burn up on re-entry. Now, and you're not even wearing gloves. Look, he's not even wearing gloves. Now, if somehow you theoretically could angle yourself or move in a way where you could reduce the amount of friction that you would get on entering the atmosphere where you didn't burn up, because maybe you've got yourself a sealant suit or a cooling mechanism that will keep you from burning up, you're going to reach terminal velocity after the initial burn-up point, which you're dead at that point. So if Clark is so afraid to leave the spaceship of the uncertainty of the alien spacecraft, he's certainly going to die going back to the Earth. And you're 10,000 miles away. How long? I mean, he's even going, they'll assume Clark reached Earth and sent Superman to rescue. I'll speed back and capture the sinister alien. I know he said supersonic jets, but you're 10,000 miles away. How fast, theoretically, would you have to fly to get back there in seconds? Anyways, let's continue the story. And the scientific inaccuracies, I mean, we didn't even really learn about the burning on the re-entry of a vehicle into the atmosphere until 1952, and the papers weren't even published until 1958. So maybe all these things about re-entering the atmosphere and burning up weren't even considered back then. Anyways, as Superman appears, he flies towards the ship. Earthling fool, nothing in the universe can penetrate the ultra-force barrier that surrounds my ship. Ha 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 ha. So he realizes that he can't get through the ship, so he pushes the spacecraft out of the way so it can no longer be hit by the rays of Brainiac's spaceship. So Brainiac, he's not concerned with the spaceship. It was just an obstacle in his way. So he starts preparing bottles. Air hoses are connected. The bottles are ready. Air hoses all connected. The bottles are ready. One is already filled. Now to fill the others. There, Coco. Ha 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 ha. And as he's hovering over Earth, we see him using a telescope of some sort. I mean, he's looking through a circle. Okay, I had the first city, Earth City, Paris, in the crosshairs. I pressed a button, and how did you know it was Paris? I mean, you theoretically just arrived at the Earth. Okay, Sucker Blue. What is that cone of particular rays streaking towards the whole city? It's amazing that it's amazing you say one French word and the rest of your words are in English. I mean, I know we're supposed to think that they're speaking French, but usually you preface the text bubble in some way to let us know that they're speaking French. Anyways, an instant later, an American plane nears Paris. Of course, it's an American plane that nears Paris. Fasten your seatbelts for landing in Paris and wait, the whole city just vanished. Where to go? I don't even know the scientific principles of what not only captured the city, but miniaturized it and purposely placed it in the bottle. The incredible answer lies with Brainiac's flying saucer, and they get the New York City in the bottle. I have to push the rocket back to Earth slowly. Continued super speed will crush the crew within. Wait, my telescopic vision shows something wrong on Earth. Paris is missing. I like the beam flashing from his eyes. And, okay, there's the boot. There's the boot of Italy. So, yeah, that would be around the right place. As Superman inspects Brainiac's ship, yes, Coco, I will take a dozen cities in a bottle back to repopulate my home world, where a plague wiped out my people. Then I will restore all the cities to their original size and have a new empire to rule as before. So that explains his motivations for wanting to capture the cities. His whole world was devastated and he wants to repopulate it. Okay, so Brainiac goes and continues to steal cities, and he gets the city of Rome, and he also takes the city of New York, which he hasn't yet taken Metropolis and will, so we know that Metropolis and New York are not the same city. He uses tweezers because he wants to take a look at the bridge, and then we see him looking at the Eiffel Tower. Bah, such primitive structures. Well, you're a scientific genius. I'm pretty sure some of our most notable and best structures in 1958 would seem inferior next to yours. He's examining the major miniature cities as though they were ants' nests. Yet I can't get into his ship and stop him. Okay, so he says he needs to recharge the hyper batteries. I'm not even going to touch that. So as he goes to recharge the hyper batteries, I guess he decides to go outside of his ship just to show his superiority. The heat of the X-rays ought to make you yell uncle. And the X-rays... How do the X-rays generate heat? Hold on. Let me look this up real quick. Okay, I guess if you focus the X-rays precisely enough, you can generate heat with them. So I guess that's what Superman's doing. Okay, so the X-rays bounce off of his shield, and great Scott, I have to turn them off or the super heat will harm me. Aren't you impervious to... Haven't you flown inside of lava and volcanoes? I'm pretty sure you're not going to burn up from your own x-rays. Alright, desperately, Superman uses the nearest weapon at hand. I broke off one of the stalagmites and hurled it like a super lance, and it breaks too. And he calls him Puny Man. And outraged, Superman takes a giant chunk. They're just on a... What planetoid is this? They were only 10,000 miles from the Earth. The nearest planetary object in space is the moon, and it is over 100 million miles away from the Earth. Actually, it's over 200 million miles. Or 200,000 miles. My mistake, sorry. 200,000 miles from the Earth. So, where is this little planetoid that is close enough to the Earth, and is between the Earth and the moon, that we don't know about? It can't be an asteroid. It says planetoid. Anyways, he rips up a chunk of the planetoid itself and throws it, and makes bigger and bigger and bigger chunks, and they all fly off. He really is showing that he's Superman. What to continue the duel, Puny Man? No, I've had enough. I quit. I'm licked. Lois Lane looks distraught that Superman is throwing in the towel. Let's see, into the dismay of Lois Lane, who has been watching from the earthly rocket. Good grief, Superman is flying away to outer space. I never thought I'd see the day when he would quit a fight. Well, I mean, he can't break through the shield. He needs to figure out another plan, so yeah, makes sense. Anyways, later when the Columbia reaches Earth under its own power, Superman was pushing this thing earlier. Anyways, she gets back to Daily Planet, and Clark Kent, who somehow survived the heated re-entry of space and falling at terminal velocity, sees Lois. And she shares her dismay at Superman quitting. And then, in the wink of an eye, Metropolis meets the same fate as its sister cities. He just so happens to take Metropolis with Superman in it. I want to say Deus Ex Machina, but I think that's improperly using the word Deus Ex. Anyways. Brainiac dresses tweezers down into the model-sized city. The alien reduced us to Tom Thumb size. You are a lot smaller than Tom Thumb. And for once, Superman isn't here to protect us. That's what you think, Lois. So Superman goes outside and changes into Superman. At the same time, come Coco, we better check the bottle which imprisons our prize city. The super hard metal stopper will seal up Metropolis so none of its inhabitants can escape. I would really love to see how they would plan on escaping. That would be impressive. Are they going to climb up the glass? I didn't see any ships or planes in the sky. Okay, and this is a really cool picture here. You see Brainiac putting the stopper on and Superman coming up. He corked it before I was able to fly out. Okay, so Brainiac walks away and Superman slips out of the ship. A super shove and I'm out. I'll replace the cork so Brainiac doesn't notice and suspect I'm inside of his ship. So he's studying the Hyperforce machine, but he doesn't quite know how to use it. And as Brainiac turns around, he sees a fly. That buzzing fly annoys me. Swat him, Coco. Question. If there was no fly in your ship before, and you have a hypersonic shield that stops anything from penetrating it, why is there a fly in your ship now? Luckily, Brainiac didn't look close enough at this fly, but if his pet keeps after me with that giant fly swatter, unless I find a place to... It doesn't matter if he hits you with the fly swatter, you're Superman. Even reduced, you still showed us that you have super strength by removing the cork, which should suggest that you have super invulnerability too. Okay, so he decides to hide in one of the buildings, and a super surprise awaits Superman. Great stars. That's the city of Krypton, my home world. Brainiac must have imprisoned it inside the bottle city before Krypton met Doom. And this raises some questions. Brainiac took one city from the city of Krypton, and he must have done this a long time ago because Superman's well into his adulthood. He took a number of cities from Earth. Why did he only take one city from Krypton? Was he only able to get one before it explodes? I understand the history and the current Brainiac history of why he only has one, but the suggestion of this, where he's taking multiple cities of Earth, would suggest that he would have taken multiple cities from the planet of Krypton. Okay, so Superman falls down because the Earth's gravity overwhelms him here. As we were to find out, the original Superman did not get his powers from the yellow sun. That wouldn't be established until, I believe, sometime in the 60s. So it was him growing on a heavier gravity planet, which allows him to fly on a lesser gravity planet as the Earth. So it would make sense that there is higher gravity in this city because that's what they survive with. So he talks to a random scientist, Jor-El, while he was my roommate in college, of course. I'm Professor Kidma, and this is Kandor, the city that has Krypton's capital. But how did you get to Earth? And he basically explains how he's Superman, which the first original story didn't do that, but the reprint of his origin story did, and many origin stories that come over the years. Your city was stolen by Brainiac before Krypton blew up. You spent half your lifetime in a bottle. Yeah, okay, it is possible that Brainiac was only able to get one city before it blew up. I mean, scientific advancements that Krypton possesses would really help Brainiac. Okay, so he says that he's been using his telescope machine and he knows how to use Brainiac's machine. But I can't use it. How can I escape the bottle without superpowers here? I'm trapped with you. So he explains all the advancement that they have, that they built rockets to travel the vastness of the city, because even though it's shrunk, it's still a big city. They have a metal-eating mole, which is just the stupidest thing. They have robotic farmers to work on their crops, and they have created their own sun, because there is no sun in Brainiac spaceship. So they created their own sun to regularly cross over the city on tracks, so the sun can be in different parts of the city to make sure that their crops can grow. It's just... Anyways, meanwhile, having filled all his bottles with earthly cities, Brainiac finally turns his ship towards outer space, and it's a long trip back to my world, Coco. We must go into suspended animation to avoid aging. We will awaken after a lifetime has passed me by. Okay. So he shows that Brainiac has gone to suspended animation, and this is the time. And Superman says that he needs a couple of things to be able to get out of the bottle, because he can't do it right now. So he takes one of the spaceships and the mole, and he launches the spaceship into the bottle and has the mole eat through the stopper so that he can start pushing the buttons to put the earthly cities back. Now, he's not big enough, so he talks about how he's using his head. That's using your head, Superman. So he restores all the cities, but then he realizes that he only has enough hyperpower for one more regrowth. He can either regrow himself, or he can regrow the city of Kandor. And he's going to restore the city of Kandor, because that's what he does. He's a hero. And allowing them to live on Earth, I'll press the button that will liberate them. And just as he's getting ready to press the button, a spaceship flies out of nowhere, presses the button, and regains him to size. We find out it's I, Kidma. I flew a rocket out of the hole in the cork to punch the button, knowing only one charge would be left. We could not let the Earth be deprived of its greatest superhero. You sacrificed your people for me. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. But your city must forever remain tiny now. I really need to read these comics more than once before I start going over them. So he leaves Brainiac. He leaves the ship, and the ship's going to travel off to his kingdom, and he should be asleep for a century. Let him live on a desolate world alone, a cruel king without a kingdom. So he places the bottle city of Kandor in his fortress of solitude, vowing that one day he'll return them to normal size. And it's actually good that we have this setup, because Kandor and its people being on Earth, different sizes, helping Superman, does actually come into play a lot in the storylines of the 60s. So that is the end. Oh, rats, that's the end. I hope you enjoyed this one. This one was kind of silly, but it's a story out of the 50s. What did you expect? Maybe we'll do another villain review before DC month is over, or you can drop me a line of characters that have appeared in the Golden Age, but you don't know their first appearance, that you're really anxious in seeing. So that does it for this video, and as we're kicking off DC month. Until next time, I'll be seeing you.